Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the last edition of live Celtics video chat. This is live Celtics video chat number 22nd, and today, when we are recording, it's 7:30 p.m. Eastern, Saturday, 10th June 2017. The Celtics season is officially over a long time ago now, and Celtics Talk Radio broadcasting season is over with the last show with Mr. Nick Gelso, 172. This show happens to be the most listened show with 1,515 listenings. As far as I know, Danny, am I correct, or maybe this show is up to more listenings? Okay, so this show is growing, and this is the top show of our broadcasting season, and we must say that this is probably the best season of Celtics Talk Radio since 2012, when we were in the Eastern Conference Finals, and we are so thankful to you fans, and we collected some material that we wanted to break down, and we are going to do this live video chat as a bonus to you hardcore fans that want to be informed about the Celtics future, draft, and possibilities for the Celtics to build a contender in the near future. So this is why we are doing this live video chat at all. So just to say that again, Daniel will tell you more, but I think that we have over 19,200 listenings of our 35 shows, and we have the chart of top 10 shows if you want to look at our page, Celtics Talk Radio. So what I'm trying to say is that the next show will be NBA Draft Special, June 22nd. So all of you listen to our old shows. You have Nick Gelso show, which is very quality show. I must say this is 172 in our archive. Then subscribe to YouTube channel. You will get our shows there. And listen us June 22nd, 7 p.m. Eastern, when our next show, the Draft Special, will be on air. And this show will be available, live video chat 22nd, tomorrow, Saturday 11th, on our YouTube channel. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Celtics Talk Radio. Now, Daniel, let us start with Gordon Hayward. And you have the audio for our listeners and viewers about Gordon Hayward. Is that right? So, Danny, you can play the audio right now.
We've got a situation that is attractive, and I think Gordon knows that. If Gordon doesn't come back, I don't think it's something that the Jazz were not doing as much as it is a situation where he feels that there's something else that he wants. And obviously that would be disappointing. You hope that's not the case. But I think there's times in all of our lives where, you evaluate where you are and you look other places. And a lot of times that can be affirming. I mean, it's a sense that, you take inventory of those things you value, or try to value what, different aspects of your own life. And really is that it's more than just basketball, and it's more than just a job. It's, decisions you're making and Gordon's making that impact his life and his family for years to come.
So, of course, that was the Utah Jazz head coach being asked about Gordon Hayward and the teams that are coming after him.
Okay, so now the Queen Snyder doesn't sound optimistic about Gordon Hayward staying. So Queen Snyder, we've got situation. This is attractive, and I think Boston knows that if Gordon doesn't come, etc., etc. So I mean, we will see what happened with Gordon, but we have pending news that want to say to our listeners and viewers that Boston Celtics free agency rumors, Miami Heat viewed as the treat to sign Gordon Hayward. So the Boston Celtics could have strong competition for from Miami Heat in the pursuit of free agent Gordon Summer. Free agency volume is rising on the whisper that the team worrying in Utah, the team is worrying that Gordon Hayward's free agency is Miami as much as Boston. The biggest streets, Miami and Boston, two Jazz. The Jazz can offer Hayward familiarities and solid young roster and respected coach. There is a lot to like in Utah, but the Celtics can put together strong pitch too. They reached Eastern Conference Finals, boasts more paths to figure growth, and of course there is Butler connection between Hayward and Stevens. And all of that makes Boston good, but for Hayward, if he does leave Utah, but the Heat have few interesting roster pieces, warm weather, and the powerful Pat Riley to lead their recruitment. Plus, it's clear the Celtics have better team right now, plus #1 pick. Both clubs could give Hayward a lot to think this summer. Now, Daniel, tell me, why in the world do you think that Hayward should pick Miami Heat? And I mean, why in the world Hayward would go to Miami?
Well, when it comes to that, really it's one thing that we can all say will come into play, which is the city and the type of weather out there, Igor. During that, NBA season out here, we're dealing with winter here in the Boston area, the state of Massachusetts, the snow and all that other stuff, the ice. So many players like to go to those, places like Miami and all those other, locations that have, tropical type weather where it's nice and hot for the most part, where the worst you got to deal with is rain and, hurricanes from time to time. But they would rather be out there for the weather. Plus, if he goes to the Miami Heat, we all know outside of Hassan Whiteside, really that team doesn't have anybody else. So many people will make the argument that, Hassan Whiteside, it may be his team. Others will say if Hayward comes in, and he does what he does right now for the Jazz on that team, then it's probably his team. And Hassan Whiteside will be, the next man up after that. He comes to the Boston Celtics. You got two guys ahead of you in the pecking order, Thomas and Al Horford in this case. So you would not be the man on this team, just like he wouldn't be the man if he was to go to the Cavaliers or to the Warriors or any of those other teams. So there's a few things that can go in his favor if he ends up going to Miami. But the weather being the main thing, there's really no reason other than that to go down to Miami. Both teams can offer you pretty much the same amount of money, because the only team that can go over the limit to actually bring you to, to give you a maximum contract that's more than the 30.3 that the Celtics can give you is the Utah Jazz, because they can give you more than anybody else. But any other team out there whether it's the Miami Heat or any other team that has a max cap space, can give you the same amount the Celtics can, $30.3 million. You cannot tell me that somehow you think, just because you end up going to Miami, that you think they're going to be closer to getting past LeBron and the Cavaliers than you think the Celtics would if you was to go to them. Now, of course, we all know, Igor, the only negative here is that in order to get Hayward, we got to get rid of somebody. And in all likelihood, it appears that somebody is probably going to be Avery Bradley. That's going to be the one getting shown the door in order for us to get the necessary cap space to actually bring Gordon Hayward in.
Yeah, we will come to cap space later in the future of the franchise. Now we are coming to Markelle Fultz topic. Daniel, we have one or two audios, so play the audios, please, and then we have two articles about Hayward, and then we will comment.
Hey everybody, my name's Tom Westerholm, sports producer at MassLive.com, and we're here to talk about the 2017 NBA Draft Lottery. The dream scenario for the Boston Celtics is Markelle Fultz, guard out of Washington. He is an absolute stud, three-level scorer who can hit from three-point range, mid-range, and around the rim. Freak athlete. He's a two-way player, so once he starts to develop his defensive instincts, he's going to become a real stud. What's interesting about Fultz is that he broke onto the scene as a junior. When we first saw him, he wasn't even in the top 100 on ESPN. He didn't start playing varsity basketball until he was a junior. Played JV at DeMatha before that. But it was pretty apparent the first time you saw Fultz that he was going to be an NBA player. He was very smooth with the dribble. He could get where he wanted to go. He could hit threes already. And he actually had one of the best dunks of that hoop hall, which is pretty impressive because that's a bunch of high school kids who are all freak athletes dunking on each other. Washington was a bad team. They didn't make the NCAA tournament this year. They really relied on Fultz to do everything. And to his credit, he really did. You know, there were moments where his effort was kind of questionable, especially on the defensive end, but that really was the only knock against him this year. He controlled the offense. He was a willing passer, even to guys who weren't very good players. And one of the things that he did really well was just score the ball. He can come around screens. He can hit threes. He can work out of the pick and roll. He can find guys off the dribble. He is a very complete player as a prospect, and that's not something you see a lot. And that's the reason why scouts, even with the team that he was on, even with the struggles that team kind of went through, they could kind of project his game to the next level. And that's going to be what makes him probably the #1 pick, is just the way that his game will translate to the NBA. Fultz is 6'5" with long arms, big hands. He can shoot off the dribble. He can shoot off the catch. So he's going to be an on-ball and an off-ball threat probably right away. He's a really good passer. He actually had a higher assist rate than Lonzo Ball, who's considered one of the best passers in the draft. And when you look at his complete game, he can really score. He can shoot over people. He can dunk. I mean, he can really get up. He can be a lob target off the ball if you use him correctly. The team that drafts him is going to be able to use him in a lot of different ways. They're going to be able to kind of mold him in whatever direction they want him to go. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest things for him, is just that versatility, especially on the offensive end. Out of all the players in this draft, I think Fultz has probably the best star potential. He could be a franchise cornerstone if he develops the way that people are hoping that he will develop. His offensive skill is perfect for the modern NBA. His defensive potential is sky high. And when you combine those things in a league where point guards really run the show, he could be one of the absolute best point guards in the league, assuming that he develops correctly. I'm Tom Westerholm. Make sure to follow MassLive.com for all of your 2017 NBA Draft and Boston Celtics coverage.
Is that all from Markelle Fultz audience? Okay, so the news about Markelle Fultz is that Sacramento Kings are not working out. Sacramento Kings not working out possible #1 pick this weekend after all. Update. After reporting early Friday that Markelle Fultz would work for Sacramento Kings this weekend, the Sacramento Bees updated later that meeting has been pushed back, but will still happen. And NBC Bay Area's James Ham report Fultz will not work out with the Kings this weekend, but there is possibility he does so before the draft. Elsewhere, the Los Angeles Lakers, who own the second round are reportedly hopeful they can land the meeting with Fultz. Possible number 1 overall, Markelle Fultz. Said Alan Voisin said, hearing late tonight, there is possibility that Fultz is going to work with Kings Sunday. It's difficult to imagine scenario where Fultz fall to 5th, Sacramento's pick. But the Kings have been rumored to want to move up in the lottery. Chet Ford report that they consider packaging number 5 and 10 for better one. Ford believes they want to target the Aaron Fox, but they might also have eyes on other talented point guard like Fultz if they can land him. After auditioning with the Boston Celtics, the owners of the top pick, Fultz said that he didn't decide on any other workouts. Though he is widely considering the front runner to go number 1, the Celtics have stressed they will explore all options for the draft arrives in 2 weeks. So Markelle Fultz is worthy favorite, but not everyone agrees that he's number 1. More likely, 2 weeks before the draft, Markelle Fultz is widely considered the front runner to go number 1 overall, but the majority of front office figures appear to be favor him at that spot. So draft experts express ESPN and the Ringer. Ringer's mock drafts having Fultz number 1. Some executives around the league believe that the Celtics will have different direction. Josh Jackson and or Lonzo Ball, suggesting the Celtics could at least have decisions to make the next couple of weeks. Despite Fultz's reputation, they have been adamant that's the case. Team President Basketball Operation, Ainge, has vowed to explore all options, including Fultz. After Fultz's visit to Boston earlier, Ainge made it clear he intends to continue evaluating all other possibilities. Like everyone else, the Celtics are high on Fultz when underdogging trade talks involve Paul George and Jimmy Butler in February. You can bet the Celtics kept in mind they might end up in this exact situation with the team reach Eastern Conference Finals and number 1 pick at their back pocket. Even before the trade deadline, there was at least some talk in their front office they want to hold the pick. And if Ainge decides on different player, there could be some spirited debating from his staffers. But some front office figures outside the Celtics organization believe there is at least one possibility Ainge falls in love with another prospect, mostly because this is not one player's draft. Some consider Fultz no-brainer selection an obvious pick, including me, but there are other options too. One rival executive said he would put Fultz somewhere in the top 3, but prefers Ball and maybe Jackson to the Washington product. A scout for a different team ranked Jackson first, followed Fultz, then Ball. Comcast Sportsnet Sports Illustrated Ian Thompson said generally that Josh Jackson from Kansas Jayhawks is the best player on the draft. Recently, Chet Ford suggested that lottery teams were split on whether Ball or Fultz should be number 1. Based on conversation, the case against taking Fultz first goes something like this. His defense needs to work out. His team won just 9 games, and the Ball or Jackson are both talents in their own right. One executive who spoke to the Massive Live Com said that while college teams' record obviously isn't the best indicator of how the player's professional career would unfold, it was still jarring to see the top prospects team fall to crack a double-digit victories. Ben Simmons went number one pick overall last summer without reaching NCAA tournament. But Simmons' LSU squad are more than doubled victories than Fultz Washington. Even those who prefer another prospect to Fultz should develop into really good players. It's easy to find people who consider him the clear prize. His Washington team had obvious talent deficit around him, and coach Lorenzo Romer, who was fired, was bad. Top mock drafts have considered held Fultz at the top, a sign of the way talent evaluation view the 19-year-old potential. He's likely to be number one. The Ringer's Kevin O'Connor, expert, said he would consider trading down if he is the Boston's position. For the Celtics, I would have only been worried about the worst-case scenario on the lottery, falling to number 4. He added, if Jackson didn't shoot 56%, actually 57%, from the free throw line, he would be the top pick buzz. But legit concern about Jackson's shoot and shooting form exists. And while Lonzo Ball is one of the best passing prospects, he doesn't pop as a scoring threat in the arc. And 6'4" Wall with monster wingspan and complete pick and roll skill set, Fultz his three-way threat and well-rounded offensive talent with fewer question marks. He is legitimate number one prospect, and even if you can find some smart people who would pass on him at the top of the draft. And that's it. Now, again, I'm the big hip wall guy, and I think it would be insane if we draft a Ball that is a worse player than Fultz, obviously, and that doesn't want to play for the Celtics. This would be really stupid from the Celtics. Also, Josh Jackson is a nice player, but I don't want to draft the guard that is shooting, or forward that is shooting 56% for the free throws. And I think that we have a lot of wingers. I think that this is point guards league, and I really believe that Fultz will be star in the next 10 years if he's healthy. So I think that it's no-brainer if we doesn't pick Fultz as number one. What do you think?
Well, again, for me, it's all about really, are you someone that wants to go the route of waiting, in my opinion? Right now, you got many people that have said they want to wait till after LeBron is gone because they think after that the Celtics will then be ready to dominate the Eastern Conference, meaning they'll be the next Cleveland Cavaliers pretty much of the Eastern Conference once LeBron's out of the way. I think, Igor, when we look at the way the finals have gone, right now LeBron and the Cavs aren't the problem. You know, it's going to be the Golden State Warriors now that are going to be the issue. So, technically, if you're someone that wants to go that route of saying, let's wait, you can't be saying, let's wait for LeBron to get out the way. You got to say now, we got to wait for Curry, Thompson, Green, and Durant to basically get old and move out the way. And if that's the case, that you're someone that's willing to basically go that route, and those guys, they're young, they're still in their prime, they got plenty of years left, then I say you draft Fultz if you're someone that's saying you're willing to wait all those years before being able to win a championship. You know, because Lonzo Ball, like you said, Igor, doesn't want to work off rails, and on top of it, his father's going to be too much of a headache. Trust me. We've seen a lot of guys come to these Boston teams out here and be just nothing but a problem, unfortunately, that we got to end up sending them packing. You know, we don't need another one to come and waste our number one pick on that. You know, and unfortunately, I think that's one of the reasons why the Lakers are starting to look the other way and are starting to consider maybe Ball isn't the one they should go after. because of the fact that the father seems to be the one that's really in control. It's not the son that's in control of his destiny there. So Fultz, in my opinion, if you're not going to take Fultz, you don't think really that he's the one, then I say you do what you just mentioned. Maybe you trade down and get 2 players for the price of 1, since many people seem to think that Fultz, he's head and shoulders maybe ahead of everybody else, but then everybody else after him and Paul are virtually the same in terms of talent and maybe what their ceiling is. And if you're one of those people that thinks that we should be waiting, then fine. That means you're someone that also feels there's no point to basically think about Isaiah Thomas. There's no point of wasting our time with Al Horford. There's no point of wasting our time with A.B. Bradley. So start basically grabbing as many draft picks as possible and start building these guys up the way the Golden State Warriors did when they drafted Curry and all of them. Start building them up the way the Warriors did with those guys until they're ready to start dominating the league after the superstars of today's NBA are finally out of the way. But for me, Igor, I'm someone that doesn't want to wait that long. I'm sorry. I am not willing to wait 10 years just to hope that you have a chance to win a championship. Can we absolutely guarantee that Fultz is actually going to become one of the top 3 players in the league at that point? Nobody, none of these guys that have been talking about Fultz can guarantee us that. None of the members in our group can guarantee us that. And yet, they don't want us to even think about trading him if we have a chance to maybe get some sort of good player in return, whether it's a Paul George or Jimmy Butler. Heck, even people have fantasized about getting Anthony Davis. And you got people saying, forget it. We don't want it because we want to get Fultz. Fultz is a good player and all, but come on. Unless you can guarantee he's going to be someone that has Stephen Curry type skills or Russell Westbrook type skills, and he's going to lead the league or be one of the top 3 players in the league in 10 years, unless you can absolutely guarantee me that, I'm looking to win something now, not wait 10 years and then hope that it's going to happen.
Okay, let's keep to Kelly Olynyk, and then we will come to explore all possibilities for the Boston Celtics future. The landscape of the NBA, we must be realistic, and we must tell to the folks, and again, we will come to this article, our central article, I hope, of the evening, if we have time, but the landscape is that Golden State Warriors is going to dominate at least the next 3 years. From then, we will see. So we can try to put together the super team or something close like that. This is one of the possibilities, and try to be East #1 team, but we are going to really, it's going to be really hard to beat Golden State Warriors that are possessing 2 of top 5 players in the NBA. This is something that never happened, and this is why I think that Durant is one coward. He went to the team that is having the 3 All-Stars, and now they're having like they're having like 4 All-Star players and 2 top 5 players and 3 top 10 players. And again, we must be realistic. So I don't think that it is likely that Ainge and Boston Celtics management will put the team that will go over the cap for next season and the next 3 seasons, knowing that you have obviously the team that is 1 class better than you, no matter what you do. My opinion is that the Ainge and the Celtics will put up their the pseudo-contending team, just like this year's team, the next couple of years, until Golden State Warriors and Cavaliers fall apart, or at least, fall apart due to the cap issues or age issues, whatever. I think that is a realistic scenario. Now I want to say that about Kelly Olynyk and his status. Now Kelly Olynyk is excited about Boston Celtics off-season. Possibilities called Golden State Warriors, what you are striving for. Kelly Olynyk understands Boston Celtics salary cap situation will loom over his restricted free agency this summer, but he said he will not worry about how the team's pursuit of the top agents could impact the future. It's not that I love, and he said, I love that we have so much going on. Danny Ainge put our team into a good position where there is the case, and that's why we are number one in the East, and that's why we are still trending upwards. And hopefully we can do something this summer to keep this trend away. The optimism glosses over the fact that any big-time signing could jeopardize Olynyk's future because of what it would take to achieve maximum cap space. The Celtics could need to at least seriously considering renouncing Kelly Olynyk's rights if they do land a commitment from the free agent like Gordon Hayward. It's possible Boston could clear some money in other ways to hold Olynyk, but the team will need to make a roster sacrifice one way or another to lift the top free agent. The Celtics hub Ran Bernardoni recently broke down some ways the Boston could get maximum cap space, assuming the cap comes in the latest projection. Even if the Celtics renounce Kelly Olynyk and all their restricted free agents like Amir Johnson, John Arjeretko, Gerald Green, and James Young, every bet involves losing quality players. We have option number one. Cap space 10 millions, 0.5 with Horford, Crowder, Thomas, Brown, Fultz, Bradley, Zeller, Smart, Rozier, Mickey, Jackson, Olynyk, Yabusele, Žižić. 90.6 millions. Now, if we waive Tyler Zeller, if we trade here, if we waive Jordan Mickey, if we trade Demetrius Jackson, renounce Kelly Olynyk, and stash and trade Gershon Yabusele, we have 67.7 millions or 29.97 free cap space. Option 3 is even better. We should waive Zeller, trade Smart, waive Mickey, and trade Jackson, renounce Olynyk. We have now 67.46 or 31 millions. Now, option number 4 is to trade Bradley or trade Rozier, waive Mickey, trade Jackson, and renounce Olynyk, and stash and trade Yabusele, 30.7 millions. Option number 5, to trade Bradley, waive Zeller, waive Mickey, and renounce Olynyk. We have 34.8 millions. So that means that you are sacrificing Bradley Zeller, Mickey, and Olynyk, 34.8. And option number 6 is Bradley trade, Zeller wave, Rozier trade, Mickey wave, Jackson trade, and Yabusele stash, 31.04. So, you know, the numbers are screwed up for option number 2 and 6, but it's that. Because of all the moving parts, Olynyk's situation is complicated. The Celtics will have option to match any offers, but will need to make difficult choices to make a run at the free agency market. It's obvious the Celtics need more talent to compete for the championship. They got waxed in the Eastern Conference Finals by Cleveland Cavaliers, who now trail Golden State Warriors 3-0. Given the Warriors' dominance, the current NBA landscape could be intimidated for them with hopes to break through. We didn't have Isaiah Thomas, we weren't full straight, and we were little down against Cavaliers, but the Warriors are a good team, the Cavs are a good team, Olynyk said. I think they should gotten that one last night. It's now a cookie crumbles. Everybody's trying to get to Golden State's level. That's what you're striving forward. And though restricted free agents can be unpredictable by nature, Olynyk could be looking to be paid between 10 and 12 millions, according to the sources, maybe more. There is a real value in shooting center, and Olynyk can space the floor as a 7-footer, finished with 75% of shooting for the 3 feet, according to basketball references, and 60% of true shooting. Though he's not a physical big man, Olynyk can offer a lot to the team. He just doesn't know yet which team he will be playing the next year. Additional note, when the topic of Markelle Fultz is, we said that Boston will explore all other possibilities. At the carnival, Olynyk walked through the pictures of students, and he said it's phenomenal. So Olynyk is enjoying himself. What do you think about Olynyk's situation, Danny?
Well, when it comes to Olynyk, in my opinion, I think, yeah, it's valuable to have someone that can nail a 3 like him, but I think he is too soft on the defensive end, and he isn't too good of a rebounder, which is why if he's going to be looking for that type of money that you just mentioned, in my opinion, it's best to let him go. You know, you got guys that we ended up drafting that could end up making it, that could end up coming to this team and end up doing some of the things he ends up doing basically for less money. You know, the only difference is the 3-point shooting. But that's why you got Al Horford for. You know, in my opinion, I would rather see us start going the route of bringing guys like Yabusele, for example, and giving Jordan Mickey a chance to play and start battling for the rebounds. Think, how many times did Tristan Thompson literally destroy Amir Johnson or Kelly Olynyk this year in that Eastern Conference Finals, you know, series, or even throughout the regular season whenever we went at it with the Cavs, where it was at points where Olynyk looked like he didn't even want to go near Thompson. He almost looked like he was afraid of him. You know, I'm sorry, but I am not someone that would want to go giving up $10, $12, $15 million to Kelly Olynyk just so he can make a few 3-pointers. And that's the thing, Igor. He doesn't bring his A game on a consistent basis. Throughout the playoffs, we saw what? One big game from him, which was that game against the Washington Wizards, and that was it. Everything else we can pretty much say it was because of guys like Thomas, Horford, Bradley, and Smart that this team made it as far as they did. You know, and Crowder. So, you know, no, it's not worth it. You know, we're at 30 million for anybody that's, you know, trying to figure out the cap pretty much. You're at around $30 million in cap space right now if you don't include the amount of money that's going to have to go to Markelle Fultz if you draft him at the number 1 spot. So you're at $30 million, and what's being reported, the maximum salary for Gordon Hayward, as I said earlier, is going to be $30.3 million. So you're just about $300,000 away from being able to get Gordon Hayward. But you still got to get rid of somebody because you got to make up that $300,000. Here's the other thing. You already got Bradley. You already got Rozier. You already got Thomas. You already got Smart. You know, you already got several guards as it is. Adding Markelle Fultz is just going to make the thing go even higher, which is why somebody from that guard position has to be let go. Which one is going to have the most value on the trade market? It's Avery Bradley because he's got, you know, he brings his A game on a nightly basis, and he plays both ends of the floor. We all know, Igor, Avery Bradley is not going to want to take a back seat to Gordon Hayward, and Gordon Hayward is not going to want to take a back seat to Avery Bradley. So in my opinion, if I'm, you know, Danny Ainge, I'm doing exactly what you said in one of those, which is I'm waiving Tyler Zeller because that boy, to make $8 million a year, to be sitting like 90% of our games doing nothing, yet you're getting $8 million. Heck, you know how many people can do that on this earth? Give us the opportunity, Danny Ainge. Let us get $8 million just to sit on the bench and be a bench warmer and keep the seats warm for the rest of the guys. You know, take that $8 million, get it back to the team, and then trade Avery Bradley, you know, maybe for a second-round draft pick, something like that. I was thinking maybe you send him to a team that has a big man and end up going the route of getting a big man. There's been reports, Igor, that the Philadelphia 76ers are looking to try and trade up to the number 1 spot. I'm thinking, why not maybe talk with them? Maybe you can get Okafor, knowing that he makes just about, you know, I think he makes about $6 million or so. Why not trade with them in some sort of a deal? You trade, you know, yeah, you end up losing Fultz, but like I said, you know, you get rid of Bradley, you end up getting the big man you need, and you can get Gordon Hayward. And with the rest of the money, maybe you get Olynyk to realize you're not worth no $12 billion. No team out there is going to overpay you. So either you take the amount of money if you want to stay with us, knowing that we're still going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals next year, or B, you go and you end up having to play for a team that basically is going to have to pay you your amount because they need to fill out the roster. That's pretty much it. A team that gets desperate. So I'm sorry, Olynyk. I say goodbye, good riddance, because you're not worth the amount of money that you're looking for.
Okay, so what if we don't need the maximum space? The Celtics will likely set up the bet to max space by waiving Tyler Zeller if they can trade him first, or having Yabusele decision settled. They will extend the qualifying offer to Olynyk but not agree to the deal until their free agent targets make a decision, or the deadline for unaltered rescissions arrives. It's possible that the Celtics will decide to trade one of their mid-sized contracts, Bradley, Smart, Crowder, Thomas, at the draft, but if not, all have possible trade values and so could be moved after Hayward or alternative targets decides. So all of that means that if no improvements can be made via free agency, Zeller is likely or already out, and Olynyk and all the players on guaranteed contracts could be returned. In that case scenario, the team pays still may have 20 million in the cap space disposal that could be used to acquire a star via trade like going after Butler or George once they know they can sign Hayward for free or sign lower tier free agent. If they do go for different free agents, I would guess it's someone more, more like Amir Johnson a few years ago, then higher profile agent. Now the tax concerns. Let's say about tax concerns for the different players down the line. Isaiah Thomas, 3 years left, 101 millions, rising. Avery Bradley, 4 years, 8 millions flat. Marcus Smart, 4 years, 56, rising. Kelly Olynyk, 4 years, 48 millions flat. Now, let's add the Celtics can get number 4, number 27 pick and put together the packs. We have options number 1 with Avery Bradley, with number 2 with Kelly Olynyk, option 3 none, and total salaries the next 3 seasons with Bradley, Olynyk, Markelle, Fultz, 27 pick will be 101.4, 151.6, and 165 millions down the line. So on the baseline salary structure, if you assume the additional Hayward extension of Smart, 3-year maximum extension for Thomas, and addition of the draft pick, has the team in the tax by 2018-19. And you're in the tax line, and you are not contender because, again, whatever you do, Golden State Warriors are better than you. That may be fine, but scary number is that if you add reasonable Kelly Olynyk re-signing to the tax bill, starts to get out of control. If you keep Bradley instead of Olynyk, but the bill skyrockets to 70 millions more than in the salaries and tax that any team has ever. The most tax with Olynyk and Bradley, 70 millions that any team has ever paid in a single season. That increases in 90-20. Then in 2020-21, Hayward will be able to opt out of the team, and we will have repeaters tax. And at that point, you start calculating about 350 million salary and the tax bill, which would be ridiculous and not normal, and it will not happen. In short, it's not viable the Celtics to add Hayward, extend Thomas, and to keep all the players on the roster. If Hayward signs, it seems more likely than 1 or 2 guys from Thomas, Bradley, Olynyk, Smart will be gone until this off-season. 1 or 2 players from Thomas, Bradley, Olynyk, and Smart. Now, about George and Butler, I don't know. It depends on Hayward. If we cannot land Hayward, then Butler and George are obvious targets, but the problem is that George wants to play for the Lakers, and why you would waste assets on him if you are not sure that he will stay longer? You can pay assets and end up him going to the Lakers and being a sucker. The Lakers fans are praying for this solution, that the Celtics waste assets and George goes to the Lakers. One reporter said, I'm praying to God that Paul George screws the Celtics. So they're not making the team the title contenders either, and they're making us closer to the Cavaliers, sure. And non-Hayward future. We saw that Hayward is going to try to sign with Miami or Boston or maybe stay in Utah. Now, if the Celtics don't sign Gordon Hayward, there are still potentially tax concerns looming. In that case scenario, it would be possible to re-sign Olynyk, Thomas, Bradley, and Smart over the next 2 summers. Now, if the team were to do that, it would be still going to significance into the tax. In that case, for the team, very unlikely to win the title. It may be the case that the Celtics have to make decision on Olynyk and one of the guards, regardless on what Gordon Hayward decides. The current salary obligations to franchise will go from 100 to 160 with the team structure, and that is not reasonable. Now, finally, this comes down to how focused the team is winning the title. In reality, we are playing in the era when the super teams are winning the titles. And the super teams were allowed to form, and then the new CBA was put into place to prevent the other teams to form the superstar teams, like the Boston Celtics. So this is why I'm saying that the Silver and the Stern were biased and hypocrites. They allowed Warriors and freaking Cavaliers to build the superstar teams, and now they're making us hard to put up the superstar team unless you're willing to pay ridiculous amounts of salary cap and the tax pays, like 350 millions, which will not happen ever in the Celtics history. Now, addition, Gordon Hayward, Markelle, if you add Gordon Hayward, Markelle Fultz, and Ante Žižić to existing roster in place of Bradley, Amir Johnson, and Jerebko, Johnson is likely to be gone. They are mentioning Toronto. Goodbye, Johnson. Thank you for all. And if you replace Hayward, Fultz, and Žižić in place of Bradley, Amir Johnson, and Jerebko, it's not going to make Boston title team. There are 3 realistic ways to get the duck boats rolling. Number 1, Markelle Fultz or whomever you draft in the 2018 to be top 5 players and MVP candidate. Number 2, a trade opportunity is out there if but that doesn't seem possible right now. Number 3, to sign the top 5 player in the free agency despite there being none seemingly available. So it's not impossible to win the title, but it's very unlikely in today's NBA. It's not easy. Looking to that, it's hard to ignore that none of the options seems to require more than one of Thomas, Hayward, and Horford. With that in mind, while I think the most obvious, clearest, and cost feasible path is to try to sign Hayward, flipping out Bradley, and to add Markelle Fultz. And I will following this post in the near future with more ideas. Now, Danny, I want your opinion, and we will expand that topic in the next half hours.
Well, again, technically, you blame, Adam Silver and David Stern for, being hypocrites and all of that, because they allowed these super teams, and now they're making it where other teams can't get to a situation. Yeah, you're partially right, but I blame them more for the fact that they gave the players too much power, in my opinion. We got the players to blame more than anything. Like, for example, Kevin Durant is the perfect example. These players got the power to choose where they want to go. Again, they're free agents. But because you chose to continue with a soft cap and only made it softer, pretty much, yeah, you made it where it seems to have it a little bit more easier now to keep their superstars by making it now where if they get into a all NBA team, they can get even more money from the team they're with. Yeah, only a few players each year, 15 players, can end up getting that benefit. And then at the same time, you keep the salary cap a soft cap, and we continue to get situations like what we had this past summer. Someone like Kevin Durant, one of the top 3 players in the world, ends up being 3 wins away, or should I say 1 win away, from an NBA Finals appearance last year against the Warriors, has 3 chances to get that 1 win, and completely, basically screws it up alongside Russell Westbrook and the rest of the Thunder. And what does the brother do? He decides to jump on that team's bandwagon. The team that beats you, you could have gone anywhere else, as Stephen A. Smith says. You could have gone anywhere else. The Celtics, the Wizards, any other team that had the money to sign you, you could have gone to them, and there would be no complaining out of a lot of us fans. Instead, you end up going to Golden State, making the situation which was already bad, knowing that there was only 2 teams that had a chance to make the finals, even worse. Yeah, maybe, you could say the Spurs and the Thunder, who had a chance, would have had a chance again this year, but come on. You wanted out of OKC because you couldn't get along with Russell Westbrook. Fine, that's understandable. But the team you chose is the problem. That's the issue, Igor. These players, basically, unless they're getting to shoot, unless they're having the right to play with the other big-name superstars, they don't want to go to your team. Look at the situation right now. How many of these players this summer are we going to see are going to be trying to hope they find a way to get either on the Cavaliers or on the Golden State Warriors, rather than jumping with the Celtics or jumping with the Spurs, which also finish in the top 4? The Celtics, like you said, Igor, they don't want to pay a big-time, situation when it comes to the tax. The Cavaliers and the Warriors are paying a lot of tax money. But of course, they got the superstars. So their owners are willing to pay the bill in order to make sure their team is winning a championship. And that's the thing. That's one thing that Wick Grossbeck, Danny Ainge, and the rest of the Celtic management has to be willing to do. You got to be willing to flip the bill, because come on, keep in mind, the fans that you're charging every ticket to sit in those seats to watch these games, they're the ones that are paying pretty much for these players to come and basically play for this team. They're the ones that are paying for the electricity in that arena. They're the ones that are paying for your salary. So don't be bringing us this excuse that, we can't, we don't want to be paying a major tax bill, so that's the reason why we can't go after all these big-name superstars. Now, there is no excuse for not being able to go after any big-name superstars and making a super team like the way the Warriors and the Cavaliers are. The only excuse that really can be made is that these players simply just don't want to come to Boston. They want to join forces on other teams that already have superstar talent already there. And unfortunately, right now, we don't have it. Or, B, the other teams that have those superstars don't want to give them up, despite the fact that their team is closer to the basement than they are to the attic, as they say. They're closer to the bottom of the league than they are to the top of the league. Look at the Chicago Bulls, for example. Your team barely makes the playoffs this year, and yet you're hoping somehow, some way, Jimmy Butler is going to stay with you. Your team has no chance of winning an NBA championship in the next 2 years, with the Cavaliers still there, the Celtics, the Wizards, and the Raptors still ahead of you, and a few other teams, and you think somehow, some way, Jimmy Butler is going to stay. But they don't want to get rid of him, because that's the only hope they have, that the fans will continue to show up, because once they let him go, the fans will know the team is not a championship contender, possibly not a playoff contender, and they stop coming. That's the issue here, Igor. I'm not going to blame the commissioner, for the issue right now. I blame him for not making this a hard cap, because if they would have made this a hard cap, what we would have saw with Kevin Durant in them, with Kevin Durant jumping to the Warriors, that wouldn't have happened, and we wouldn't be seeing teams with 4 superstars anymore. That would make it where every team would have a shot with the hard cap. You want to make $18 million and that team can't afford it? Fine. Either you go down to whatever amount they have left over, even if it's only $5 measly, you take that $5 in order to play for that team for the entire year, or you go play for that team over there, even if that team had the worst record last year, if you want your $18 million. But until the league goes that route, it's not going to happen. And unfortunately, the players ain't going to let it happen because the players want to be able to continue making these types of teams and want to continue screwing out nearly 90% of the league in terms of the teams that won't ever have a chance to win a championship because none of the players want to play for those teams.
Couple of things to clear. Your discussion is great, but what I meant and what I'm standing my claim, again, that Commissioner Stern and Silver are hypocrites because they are claiming one thing and they are doing the other things. First of all, again, they allowed the teams to make the super teams. What's more, they are allowing Cavaliers and Warriors and James and Durant to do whatever they wish. Whatever they wish, whatever player they wish, the teams will gift that player to Cavaliers and Warriors. All the free agents are going there, which is normal because they want to win the title in those super teams, etc., etc. So now, Silver is stating that super teams are not a problem to the NBA because we should all admire to the greatness. But like you said, Durant practically with his move checkmated the whole league in the next 3 years at least. We will come to that. We will come to that. So the situation is, again, that you have the 2 super teams, the Warriors and Cavaliers. The players there are and tied in the next 3 or 4 years in those teams, sadly. But LeBron James may break up this team if he loses in the finals, and he will lose more likely. But what will happen is that LeBron James will go from one super team and create another super team in Los Angeles because, again, he can do whatever he wants. He is allowed to do whatever he wants. On the other side, when the teams like the Celtics or the Lakers try to build a super team, they are going to get the difficulties. What I mean? First of all, remember that trade that Stern blocked. I wanted to mention that. And again, I'm talking I'm trying to be objective. I hate the Lakers. But remember the Chris Paul trade. Okay, whatever happens in that trade, now, after all, David Stern is stating that it was the mistake of Mitch Kupchak from the Lakers that he chickened out. He's trying to transfer the blame for this scandal to the Mick Kupchak. So the Boston, on the other hand, if we try to land the superstar, like you said, we are getting to difficulties because the medias are against us. The medias are doing bad propaganda of the Boston and our culture. Despite we are in the best position, the medias are against us, and it is making us harder to sign the free agents. As you can see, they are promoting Miami, which will not win the title in the next 20 years, probably, despite having Pat Riley. They are promoting Miami as more feasible free agency destination than Boston, which is not true, but propaganda can do everything they want. The teams are not willing to trade the players to Boston. They are requiring ridiculous prices from us, and they are not willing to cooperate. But on the other side, when Warriors and Cavaliers, or when James wants something, the teams are willing to give the players to them. That is what I'm talking about. Now, our viewers say it's the accident, but I don't think it's likely. Now, about Silver, what he said, we should admire to the greatness. Fine, but be consistent. If you say, I want to prevent the teams to form the super teams, either prevent all teams to form the super teams by putting the hard cap like an NFL, as you mentioned, or either allow all the teams like Boston and the Lakers to form the super teams. This is what I'm talking about. Right now, you're having this CBA, the new CBA, which is on the paper having designated player extensions and the stuff that is helping the original teams, the small market teams, to keep their stars. And on the paper, you are making harder to the big market teams to make a super team. Okay, but in reality, nothing has changed. You will not prevent the teams like Cavaliers and Golden State Warriors to do whatever they want. So that's what I'm saying. Commissioner is saying one thing and they're doing another thing. They're saying, I want to prevent the teams from forming superstar teams. Fine, then put up the hard cap or allow all the teams to make a superstar teams, not just LeBron James and Golden State Warriors. And we will finish the league problems there, and we will talk in the next 20 minutes how the Celtics can win the title. So the goal is to win the title. And when you mentioned Chicago Bulls, what is going on is very simple. Jim Paxson is general manager that doesn't care about winning the title. He wants to keep his job. He wants arena to be full. Arena is full when Jimmy Butler plays for the Chicago Bulls, no matter the results. So he's going to stick with Jimmy Butler because he wants to keep his job. He doesn't want to win the title because he knows he cannot put up together the winning roster. So Jimmy Paxson is not a good example of general manager that Danny Ainge, the Boston Celtics can look and say, this is the good example for us to do the same things. Now, Danny Ainge said the great stuff. We have a lot of good players, but we need some great ones. In the past 25 NBA championships, 24 of the championships are won by those players. LeBron James, Stephen Curry, Tim Duncan, Dirk Nowitzki, Kobe Bryant, Kevin Garnett, Shaquille O'Neal, Michael Jordan, Hakeem Olajuwon. Those 9 players that won the 24 titles in the last 25 years, all those 9 players won MVP award in the year. Garnett 9, Curry 4+, and made at least 10 All-NBA teams. Okay? This is not a secret. Very simple. Very simple. You must have MVP candidate player or the player that appeared multiple times on all NBA teams. A few years back, we were talking that Ainge wants to acquire transcendent star player. With that acquisition of Isaiah Thomas and with the Celtics' absolute unwillingness to spend significant salary on very good players, I think, Danny, what was happening with the Celtics since that Kevin Garnett trade, and I will give you a word, is that the Celtics and Danny Ainge had a multiple-year plan to make a pitch on Kevin Durant on Boston. This was what was planned. Danny Ainge knows Kevin Durant is the player that would give Boston multiple titles. So this allure of the 1% chance theory of franchise management traces back before Kevin Durant the decision to execute the Nets trade, acquiring Ray Allen to entice Kevin Garnett. This trade, a lottery pick to align contracts for the future of Kevin Garnett trade, and even consider tanking when he only had Paul Pierce. This theory that Danny Ainge only real concerns about winning the title, and that is driving him to make a moves. Now, if you understand the things from that very perspective, I think that you will understand what he's doing. I'm somewhat uncomfortable suggesting that the plan is now to sign Gordon Hayward. Or even if we sign Hayward and even if we get Jimmy Butler, that doesn't really... do you believe, Danny, and all the viewers, that the team that is consisting of Thomas, Hayward, Jimmy Butler, Al Horford, Ivory Bradley or Crowder, that is enough to beat the Warriors, who may be top 3 greatest teams in the NBA history. At least the best offensive team in the NBA history, that is sure. Now, the idea that this is all of our goal, I'm not going to agree with that. This is stupid, because if Hayward, getting Hayward, or for example Blake Griffin, is not the plan. It is the plan of the bigger plan, and the bigger plan is to win not one but multiple championships. Now, I will give you the word. Do you think that the team consists of Thomas, Gordon Hayward, Jimmy Butler, or Paul George and Al Horford will defeat Golden State Warriors? Yes, I agree that we may defeat Cavaliers during in 3 years with this team, but I don't see this team to defeat the Warriors. What do you say?
Well, again, I don't think we can get past the Warriors, at least not in the immediate future. But remember, we got to keep in mind here, why is one of the reasons why everybody wants to run to the Warriors and the Cavaliers right now is because those teams are consistently making it to the finals. That's what this is all about. That's one of the reasons why I'm sure anybody who read the post I put up in the group where I was talking about why, if I was Danny Ainge, I might actually consider making the trade for Paul George and giving up the #1 pick in this year's draft, despite the fact that he may actually want to leave. I'm thinking about what could end up happening if you do manage to get past the Cavaliers for whatever reason. We got to keep in mind, this summer, Stephen Curry and Kevin Durant are both free agents. Kevin Durant is going to have to pay, is going to want his payday. Stephen Curry is going to want his payday. And the Warriors are going to have to basically give those guys their maximum contracts. They're not going to have as much money to go paying all these other players that they've had, all these other big-name shooters that have been basically surrounding that team. Now, you got to do something, Igor, at some point to prove that you're right there and that you are an NBA Finals, competitor. If you manage to get Paul George here, let's say for this season, and you end up getting past LeBron and the Cavs with the team you have with Paul George, and you lose to the Golden State Warriors, well then you will have proven something to all the free agents who are going to be available next summer. And here's the bigger thing. We all know next summer, if Paul George does leave the Celtics, if you were to have him here, his contract expires. Isaiah Thomas's contract expires. Marcus Smart's contract, if you don't trade him this summer, expires. Several players' contracts would expire, plus you have 2 first-round picks, one of those being Brooklyn's, and the salary cap goes up again, Igor. Now you're in a position where you could make another run maybe for Jimmy Butler, or you can look at somebody else to try and be brought to your team. You got guys that could be looking to leave their teams and go elsewhere, like Carmelo Anthony, for example. You know, I'm just throwing up names, ladies and gentlemen. You got Carmelo, you got LeBron, you got guys that are going to be on the market that could basically try and help this team make the next step. If you play this season out with the same team you got right now, you're not going to get past Cleveland. And you're not going to prove to anybody that you're any better than you were last year, really. You get Gordon Hayward, maybe you put up a better fight against Cleveland than getting beaten 5 games. But really, what does that do? Does that make someone, like let's say, just throwing out a name, does that make Paul George look at you and say, maybe you have a chance to win a championship? No, it doesn't make him say that because you still couldn't get past LeBron. Which means, what makes me think next year you're going to be any better, especially with all these guys having to leave. You got to do something and start somewhere to make the league notice you and make some sort of noise so that now your location, your team, starts becoming a team that people want to play for. The same way the Warriors and the Cavaliers have done it. And that's where this comes into play. Even if Paul George, it's got no offense, this sounds bad, Igor. Pretty much, it's like you're pretty much using him, in my opinion. You use Paul George in order to get your team to jumpstart the situation of getting people to say, maybe I should go talk to the Celtics, and maybe I could be the next key they need to get them over the hump. You know, but that's why I say, for anybody, you want to get Markelle Fultz? Fine. Go and get him. But Markelle Fultz is not going to be the one that helps you get past LeBron and the Cavaliers this year. Which means you go into next season in the same position, probably having to re-sign everybody you have that is going to be expiring. Maybe you can trade the Brooklyn pick that you got next summer for somebody else. But really, do we think Jimmy Butler, the Bulls, are going to be more willing to give up Butler next year than they are right now? Do we think it's going to be more likely that Carmelo or LeBron or any of those other big-name players are going to be available? The free agency market next year is not as loaded as the one this year, unfortunately. This was the year that Danny Ainge really had to strike if he had any possibility. It's this summer. Or at least we can say by the trade deadline of this season coming. If you don't do that, I'm sorry. Your team is going to go into next season with the same roster in all likelihood because you have walked away with the same result next year that you did this year.
Okay, so make some things clear. I respect your opinion. Again, the folks can see our post at our page. We did win Celtics fans forum and your personal profile, Daniel Camacho. Now, the first question we should ask about building the championship team is, are those 9 players I mentioned above inherently all-time greats? Or do we perceive them as such because of their circumstances and the fact that they won the titles? Did they drive the team to the title, or did the team's success drive their careers narrative? To put another way, could Isaiah Thomas be perceived like Isaiah Thomas if you put 3 multiple all-stars around him? Now, the answer to that seems to be, maybe. The king on the court is just having one of the 20-ish great offensive seasons in NBA history. Now, it's possible that this theoretically team with Thomas surrounded with the 3 top 30 players could steal a title in one of the transitional down periods of the leagues. The problem is we are not, and I repeat, we are not in transitional period of the league. Now, we are in one very bad period and dark period of NBA, where the two teams are dominated and the players are dominated, like we explained. Now, when will the storm break? The Warriors are just 3 years into the greatest regular season run of the NBA history, and they may still not peak until the next season, sadly. James has made every final since the Reagan administration, and the level needed to realistically win the title as high as it can be. This is likely to last for at least seasons. Francisco are going to resign and stay together for the foreseeable future. Green is signed for 3 more years. It's like fair bet that Klay Thompson could still leave the Warriors in 2019-20, 3 years from now. Now, the luxury tax obligations that would come from carrying KD and Steph plus Draymond, only 35% top max contract, raising to 8% in environment with slower cap growth, would have the team around the tax line for just those 3 players, Draymond, Steph, and Durant. Adding Klay into that and then trying to fill out the roster, seeming financially under 2019-20 years. For the Warriors, a team with Kevin Durant and Steph 31 and Draymond 27 would still be formidable, but would be beatable. Similarly, the Cavaliers have Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love locked up until 2019, and Tristan Thompson, J.R. Smith beyond that. The luxury tax could still bite their roster in the same time frame, 2019-20. We're talking the next 2 or 3 years of domination of those 2 teams. And LeBron's cybernetic body might start to slow down after 2019-20. Now, how do you slay a giant? Now, we are talking how to slay the giants. Of course, we are getting closer to the end. But building a super team is one thing. That is what Daniel here is talking about. Now, if Danny Ainge only cares about historically great players, then who has the chance to be great historically? Karl Anthony Towns and Giannis Antetokounmpo aren't going anywhere, right? James Harden and Russell Westbrook got special dispensation in the new CBA, and their teams, Oklahoma and Houston, have all the tools to keep them. Kawhi Leonard, another transcendent player, is tied to Spurs. Kristaps Porzingis and Wiggins are not at that level, and Joel Embiid is phantasm. Now, obvious line for the future to go, if I'm Danny Ainge and if I want the player, is to build a superstars team with one player. Obviously, is Anthony Davis. Now, how to build a superstar team? Draft Markelle Fultz, waive Tyler Zeller and Jordan Mickey, renounce Kelly Olynyk, trade Markelle Fultz, Jaylen Brown, Avery Bradley, and 2018 Nets pick for Davis. I repeat, Fultz, Brown, Bradley, and 2018 for Anthony Davis. I would not do that, but it's just for entertaining all the options. Make a 3-team trade with Al Horford and make Paul George coming in. Sign Yabusele and Zizic. Sign Gordon Hayward and use, all the extensions and minimum contracts to fill the roster. Now you have the rotations, new rotations. Thomas, Smart, Hayward, George, Davis. This is kind of super team. Thomas, Smart, Hayward, George, Davis. You have Jay Crowder, Rozier, Zizic, Yabusele, and veterans from the bench. Now, total 107 millions. Yeah, It is possible, but not likely, but it is possible that we can try. However, if I put Durant, Curry, Green, Thompson, Davis, Thomas, George, and Hayward into the pool, the Warriors would still win in 1, 2, 4, 7, but we would be there somewhere. Possible remotely? Probably not, but you can make the arguments that the Pelicans would be better off than building around. Now, this is one of the questions, and we are getting to the end. I mean, we have decisions to make about Isaiah Thomas, and we didn't have the chance to discuss about Isaiah Thomas. We are getting to the end closely. But Danny, what do you think about that superstar team? Do you like it? With Thomas, Smart, Hayward, George, Davis, Crowder, and Crowder, Rozier, Žižić, Yabusele on the bench.
Well, deep down, I wouldn't go the route of wanting to get rid of Horford. In my opinion, if I could find a way to get Davis to come this way to play alongside Horford, that's what I would end up doing. You know, you need two big men. Look at what we have right now. You know, Horford is the only real big man we got. And, you know, Davis and him would dominate, in my opinion. They would dominate down low against anybody that decides to go attacking. You know, but of course, like you said, many people have tried to say we should go after those two, and it's a fantasy situation. In my opinion, having Smart take over at the small forward position is really not the ideal, thing I would want either, because when you got him having to go at it with Durant, LeBron, and many other big names, Carmelo, all these guys, that's really going to be an issue if you got him having to do that 48 minutes, a night, being the main man. Having him do it for a few minutes at a time where he does it while you have Avery Bradley and, let's say, Jay Crowder on the floor because it's a defensive lineup with Thomas sitting, that's one thing. But to have him where he's got to be doing that each and every time he plays those teams, I don't think Marcus Smart's body will be able to handle it. In my opinion, like I said, I'd rather go the route of trying to get another player, whether it's someone like Paul George or Jimmy Butler to play the small forward position to go alongside Hayward, Thomas, and Horford, or a big man like Davis, if you could get him to come this way, to go with Hayward, Thomas, Horford, and Davis. That would be, in my opinion, a situation where you're right there. Now you have a big four of your own to go toe-to-toe with a big four of the Warriors, and you're right there, possible to get right past the Cleveland Cavaliers now. Because think, the Cavaliers, we all know LeBron has been the one issue along with Tristan Thompson. You have Davis down low with Horford. Thompson no longer dominates the way he does right now. Davis and Horford both being able to go toe-to-toe with him. And LeBron, forget it. You go ahead and attack, Horford and Davis are going to be ready. But, it's still a situation where, and then next year, Thomas, like you said that you wanted to mention Thomas's free agency situation. One thing I can say about that is that the Celtics got to make sure they get to the salary cap limit. Remember, everybody, there's a difference between the salary cap limit and the tax limit. You got to get to the salary cap limit this year, because if you don't, Isaiah Thomas might feel like, okay, if you're not going to get me the player I need to help this team basically go the route of competing with the Cavs this season coming, then go ahead and give me my extension right now. And if that happens, next year, you can say goodbye to having any chance of getting any big-name players in next year's free agency market. So Danny Ainge has to make sure he goes after somebody. If it's not Gordon Hayward, Maybe you talk to Blake Griffin. You got to get somebody or go after somebody and get them over here. And if it's not a big-name superstar, then you got to get some sort of improvement in terms of some big-time role players to make this team better than it was this year, even if it's players on one-year contracts. So like that, Isaiah Thomas is willing to hold off until next summer because you can go over the cap next summer to bring him back using the Larry Bird rights. You want to make sure that you're avoiding having to give him his money this year, because if you give him his contract this year, that just chews up his salary cap amount next year.
Okay, about Thomas, and again, I will not give Thomas the full maximum contract like 30 millions. This would be insane, and this injury can be helpful to us in the way of negotiating with Thomas. Now, if Thomas accepts to agree in the contract like 4 years, 25 millions, then we can make a deal, in my opinion, between 20 and 25 millions for we can offer him like 3 years, 25 millions, or 4 years, 25 millions. I think it's possible if we trade Bradley, and then we can talk. If he doesn't want to have 25 millions, if he wants the full maximum contract, then we can wait and trade him until his contract expires at the trade deadline. Simple as that. And what I think it's the most realistic scenario to close the show this way, like you said, if he doesn't sign Hayward, if he stays in Utah, or if he goes to Miami, we can go to Blake Griffin. If Chris Paul leaves Clippers, then Blake Griffin will leave Clippers too. But there is possibility, as we heard, that His Royal Highness King James goes to Clippers, and in that scenario, Griffin and Paul stays in Clippers, and James will form another super team. He's allowed to do everything he wants. So what I'm trying to say, I agree with you. We should go to sign. We must clear the cap. We talk about the ways how to clear the cap. We must sacrifice the players, probably 1 or 2 from the core of Thomas, Smart, Bradley, and Olynyk, and all the other not important players like Zeller, Mickey, Young, Green, even draft and stash Yabusele. Now, when you free the salary cap room for the maximum contract, you go after Hayward, or if not Hayward, Griffin, or if not Griffin, we heard maybe Paul Millsap will be available. We will see. Or maybe to go after another small possibility like Danilo Gallinari. Anyway, I would sign maximum contract free agent. I would draft Markelle Fultz and keep him. This is no-brainer. If we don't draft Markelle Fultz, I think we must draft Markelle Fultz, and we will have the start the next 10 years probably, and more. And if you draft Fultz, then from now you have mid-level exceptions and other possibilities to improve the roster. And I think that Danny Ainge will put up some kind of pseudo-contending teams for the next 3 years. Maybe better than this year's team, maybe at the same level like this year's team. But the point is, those teams will be below non-taxpayers teams, above the salary cap, but below the apron, the tax line. So I think that we will be definitely better. We should draft Fultz in 2018 draft. We have Boston pick, we have Kings pick, if I'm correct, and Minnesota picks, yes. And we can try to make a pitch at one of Butler or Hayward, maybe, and we will be better than than last year. I think that we will be non-taxpayer paying team until Fultz, Brown, and 2018 pick are ready to take over. And as we heard from my elaboration about Warriors and Warriors and Cavs, they will be contenders the next 2 or 3 years. So I think that that is the path that Danny Ainge will choose. But who knows? He's not predictable, so maybe he will go to the route to form the super team. Anyway, that is the all, and I hope that we helped the Celtics public to understand what the situation with the salary cap is and what are the possibilities for the Celtics to win the title and what the Celtics need to win the title. Top 5 players, 1 or 2 top 5 players, and multiple all-star players, and all NBA team players. And that's it. So, Danny, do you want to add something on the top?
Yeah, again, pretty much, ladies and gentlemen, we can say it like this. Despite the fact we know that we have a chance to get Gordon Hayward come July 1st when the free agency starts, I think, in a way, Igor, the next 2 weeks, when the draft comes on the 22nd, the day from now to the 22nd, these days are even more important, are probably more important than the free agency is, because, again, even with Gordon Hayward, ladies and gentlemen, it's not going to be enough to get us past LeBron James and the Cavaliers. So if Danny Ainge and the Celtics do not do anything to make a trade of some sort before the draft by using that number 1 pick to get another superstar to come this way, which of course that would help entice Hayward probably even more, then in my opinion we can pretty much say you're probably a lock to get to the Eastern Conference Finals if you get Hayward to come here, but that's pretty much it. You'll have a chance to beat LeBron, but odds are it's not going to happen. So we can say the next 2 weeks again, Igor, are more important than the actual free agency market is, in a way, to the Celtics' future.
And I must add, LeBron James might go to the West because those are the rumors. So wait until judging the Celtics' possibilities to be the Eastern Conference winners. If LeBron goes to the West, the Celtics are favorites with Gordon Hayward and Fultz and the rest of the guys to win the Eastern Conference. So again, follow us on our social medias and subscribe to our channel. And the next show will be the draft night, 22nd June, 7 p.m. Eastern. And this show will be up on our channel Saturday, probably 11th June. And thank you for following us. Subscribe again to our YouTube channel. And you can find our radio shows on demand on blogtalkradio.com, Celtics Talk Radio, then on our Facebook, Twitter page, even Instagram, and also Apple and iTunes. So this was a live video chat looking towards NBA draft and the Celtics future. And again, the next show is going to be June 22nd, the draft special, 7 p.m. Eastern, the big day for the Celtics, when I hope we will draft Markelle Fultz, our next franchise player. And that's all from Igor and Danny. And until the next show, follow us, write us, subscribe. Thank you for writing all over the world, 33 countries. We are proud of you. And the next season we will try to be better for you because we love your support and we love to serve the Celtics nation. Have a good night all, and take care of yourself. Take a rest during the summer. Goodbye.